A strong grasp of criminal law and procedure is essential for success on the multi-state bar examination, or MBE. This area of law, filled with intricate rules and procedures, forms a significant portion of the exam. This essay analyzes a fictional case study to illustrate key concepts tested on the MBE. We'll delve into various aspects of a criminal case, from analyzing potential crimes and defenses to understanding constitutional safeguards and trial procedures. This approach aims to provide a practical framework for approaching criminal law and procedure MBE questions. Our case study involves John Reed, suspected of robbing a convenience store while armed. The incident has drawn significant attention due to the violent nature of the crime and the subsequent events that unfolded. During the robbery, Reed allegedly fired a warning shot that grazed a customer, Maria. This act not only endangered Maria's life but also escalated the severity of the charges against him. He then fled the scene in a car, hitting a lamppost in his haste to escape. This reckless behavior added to the list of charges he now faces. Reed is subsequently apprehended and charged with various offenses. The charges are serious and carry significant penalties if he is found guilty. Let's break down the charges in detail to understand the gravity of the situation. Armed robbery. This charge requires proof that Reed took property by force while armed with a dangerous weapon. The prosecution must show that Reed intended to use the weapon to intimidate or harm. The prosecution must establish both actus reus, the guilty act of robbery, and mens rea, the guilty mind, meaning intent to steal. Without proving both elements, the charge may not hold. Attempted murder. This charge stems from Reed firing the gun. The act of discharging a firearm in a public place is inherently dangerous and shows a blatant disregard for human life. The prosecution must demonstrate Reed's intent to kill when he fired the weapon. This is a critical element that will be heavily scrutinized in court. Aggravated assault. This charge might apply to Maria's injury. The severity of her injury and the circumstances under which it occurred will be key factors. The prosecution must prove Reed caused serious bodily harm with a deadly weapon. This charge carries heavy penalties and requires substantial evidence. Illegal possession of a firearm. This charge hinges on whether Reed legally possessed the firearm used in the robbery. If the firearm was obtained illegally, this charge will add to his legal troubles. Reckless driving. This charge relates to Reed's driving after the robbery. His erratic driving endangered not only his life but also the lives of others on the road. The prosecution must prove Reed drove with a reckless disregard for safety. This charge underscores the dangerous nature of his actions during the escape. Understanding the elements of each crime is crucial for analyzing whether the prosecution can meet its burden of proof. Each charge requires specific evidence and intent, making the legal process complex and demanding. Reed's attorney will likely explore several defenses to counter the charges. Let's consider two potential defenses. Duress. Reed might argue he was coerced into committing the robbery, claiming someone threatened him or his loved ones with harm. To succeed, he must demonstrate the threat was immediate and credible, leaving him no reasonable alternative. Mistake of fact. Reed might argue he lacked the required mens rea for certain charges. For instance, he could claim he intended to fire a warning shot and never intended to harm Maria, negating the intent element of attempted murder. The success of these defenses depends on the specific facts and evidence presented at trial. Throughout the criminal justice process, Reed is afforded protection under the United States Constitution. These protections are designed to ensure fairness and justice at every step. Several amendments are particularly relevant to Reed's case. Fourth Amendment. This amendment protects against unreasonable searches and seizures, ensuring that any evidence collected is done so lawfully. Reed's attorney will likely challenge the legality of his arrest and any evidence obtained, scrutinizing the actions of law enforcement. For example, was there probable cause for the arrest? This is a critical question that can determine the admissibility of evidence. Was a warrant required for any searches conducted? The absence of a proper warrant can lead to evidence being excluded. Fifth Amendment. This amendment protects against self-incrimination and double jeopardy, ensuring that Reed's rights are preserved. It ensures Reed cannot be forced to testify against himself and cannot be tried twice for the same crime, providing a safeguard against abuse. Sixth Amendment. This amendment guarantees the right to counsel, a speedy trial, and the ability to confront witnesses, which are essential for a fair trial. Reed has the right to an attorney at all critical stages of the proceedings, ensuring he is adequately represented. Understanding these constitutional protections is vital for identifying potential violations and ensuring a fair trial. These safeguards are the cornerstone of the justice system. The Fourth Amendment's protection against unreasonable searches and seizures requires careful analysis of Reed's arrest. Did the police have probable cause to arrest Reed? Probable cause exists when, at the time of the arrest, the facts and circumstances within the officer's knowledge would lead a reasonable person to believe that the suspect has committed, is committing, or is about to commit a crime. If the police lacked probable cause, the arrest may be deemed unlawful. This could lead to the suppression of any evidence obtained as a result of the illegal arrest, a concept known as the fruit of the poisonous tree doctrine. Following his arrest, Reed enters the pretrial phase. He is entitled to a bail hearing where the judge determines whether to release him pending trial. The judge considers factors such as the severity of the charges, flight risk, and danger to the community. Reed's attorney can argue for his release on bail or for reasonable bail conditions. Additionally, Reed has the right to a preliminary hearing. This is where the prosecution must present sufficient evidence to establish probable cause that Reed committed the crimes charged. The judge then decides whether there is enough evidence to proceed to trial. If the case proceeds to trial, Reed has numerous procedural rights. He has a right to a speedy trial, ensuring his case is heard within a reasonable time frame. He also has the right to a jury trial where a panel of his peers will determine his guilt or innocence. During the trial, Reed has the right to confront witnesses against him. This means his attorney can cross-examine the prosecution's witnesses, challenging their testimony and credibility. Importantly, the prosecution carries the burden of proof. They must prove each element of every crime beyond a reasonable doubt. Reed is presumed innocent until proven guilty. If Reed is convicted, the judge will impose a sentence. Sentencing guidelines and statutory ranges vary depending on the specific crimes and jurisdiction. Factors considered during sentencing include the severity of the offenses, Reed's criminal history, and any mitigating factors. If convicted, Reed has the right to appeal. He can challenge the verdict based on legal errors made during the trial, such as improperly admitted evidence or faulty jury instructions. The appellate court reviews the trial court record to determine if any reversible errors occurred. Let's consider a hypothetical scenario. Suppose Maria, the customer grazed by the bullet, had died from her injury. In this tragic situation, Reed could face a felony murder charge. Felony murder occurs when a death occurs during the commission of a dangerous felony, even if the defendant did not intend to kill. In this case, if Maria's death is linked to the robbery, Reed could be held liable for felony murder, regardless of whether he intended to kill her. This highlights the serious consequences that can flow from engaging in dangerous criminal activity. Beyond the charges directly related to the robbery, Reed's actions could lead to additional charges, specifically inchoate crimes. These are crimes that have not been completed. Conspiracy. If Reed planned the robbery with others, he could be charged with conspiracy. Conspiracy requires an agreement between two or more people to commit a crime and an overt act in furtherance of that agreement. Attempt. Reed's actions leading up to the robbery could constitute attempted robbery. Attempt requires the intent to commit a crime and a substantial step towards its commission. Prosecutors often use inchoate crime charges to target individuals involved in the planning stages of criminal activity, even if the planned crime was not fully executed. Two additional concepts are important to understand in criminal law: accomplice liability. If others were involved in the robbery, they could be charged as accomplices. Anyone who assists or encourages the commission of a crime can be held liable, even if they did not directly participate. Insanity defense. While unlikely in Reed's case, the insanity defense argues that a defendant should not be held criminally liable due to a mental disease or defect that prevented them from understanding the nature and wrongfulness of their actions at the time of the crime. These concepts demonstrate the complexity of criminal law and the wide range of legal issues that can arise in a single case. Preparing for the criminal law and procedure portion of the MBE requires a multifaceted approach, combining a deep understanding of legal principles with practical application. Know the elements. Memorize the essential elements of commonly tested crimes such as theft, assault, and homicide. Focus on actus reus, mens rea, and any attendant circumstances. These foundational concepts are crucial for understanding criminal liability. Understand defenses. Familiarize yourself with common defenses like duress, mistake, and self-defense. Knowing these can help you identify weaknesses in the prosecution's case. Know the elements and how they apply to different factual scenarios. This will help you think critically and apply the law accurately. Constitutional rights. Master the 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendment rights. These amendments protect against unlawful searches, self-incrimination, and ensure a fair trial. Analyze fact patterns for potential violations and their consequences. This skill is essential for both the MBE and real-world legal practice. Practice makes perfect. Regularly practice MBE questions on criminal law and procedure. This will help you become familiar with the format and types of questions asked. This will help you apply the law to factual scenarios and refine your legal reasoning skills, making you more adept at tackling complex questions. By thoroughly understanding the concepts discussed in this essay and consistently practicing MBE questions, you can approach the exam with confidence and achieve success in this challenging area of law. Remember, persistence and dedication are key to mastering the MBE.